Again? All right. Two conditions that must be satisfied for a substance to conduct is it should be ionic and it should be soluble in water, dissolved in water. So that's a metal, that's a non-metal, making the substance an ionic. The first condition is satisfied. What about the second condition?
It's not satisfied.
It's not satisfied, it's a solid. Therefore, this substance will not conduct. Now, the second substance, if you start with C, you will probably conclude that this is covalent and not ionic. But in my other class, some of my kids had a question. But Ms.Geeta, it contains a polyatomic ion. Remember, if it starts with carbon and ends with a hydroxide, the hydroxide is not a polyatomic ion there. Alright? So remember, anytime it starts off with a carbon compound containing group, then you will not consider the back portion as being polyatomic ion. Does that make sense? So this substance is covalent and will not conduct. Now, there are a whole class of compounds known as organic compounds. So, carbon-containing compounds are called organic. And this is an alcohol. And it's not a hydroxide or a base. Okay? Some little things that we will learn later. Now, if you look at the third substance, it contains two polyatomic ions, ammonium and sulfate. It doesn't begin with carbon or anything like that. Therefore, since it contains polyatomic ions, the substance is ionic. That is the first condition. And it's dissolved in water. Is that correct?
Yes.
It's aqueous, so it's dissolved in water. So this substance will conduct. What did you guys say for tap water? Yes. On hair dryers, don't you have a label saying if you drop it in water, you'll be electrocuted? Yes or no?
Yes.
So water conducts. Why does tap water conduct, but distilled water does not?
Distilled water is pure.
In distilled water, all right, you remove the dissolved minerals. The minerals are actually ionic compounds that are dissolved in water. Okay? And therefore it will conduct. Does that make sense? Now, let's write will not conduct. Now, let's write down. So how do you know what the charge will be on a given ion? You have to look at the periodic table. Alright? You know the charge pattern. Is that right? That will give you what the charge is, depending on where the metal is. Alright? So, barium is a +2, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And chlorine is a -1. But how many chlorine ions will it break apart into?
Two.
2. Alright? So it will give 2 chlorine ions. Now, so sodium has a charge of Na+. You should know your polyatomic ions. You should be able to recognize your polyatomic ions if you see them in an ionic compound. Plus, it breaks apart into phosphate. Is that correct? But there is a 3 underneath the sodium. What does that tell you?
We have a different compound.
What?
Ours is like
Well, there's a Chem 1 version of it. I think this should be your version. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I worked on the Chem 1 version of it. I didn't realize. Alright? So this one will break apart into ammonium, you should recognize, and you should recognize that it's a sulfide with a -2 charge. Correct?
Yes.
But how many ammonium ions will it break apart into? Two ammonium ions and one sulfite. Sulfite. SO3.
Yeah, I said 4 sulfate.
All right? Sulfite ion. Yes, Gabriel. All right. So what does this one break apart into? K is the plus one. Problem is kids do not remember dichromate. They memorize the dichromate for the quiz. Many of them do not remember that it's a polyatomic ion that stays together. So many of my kids are trying to break apart dichromate into chromium and oxygen. All right? So how many potassium ions will it give?
2.
2. And how many dichromate ions?
1.
1. Will the conductivity of this differ from the conductivity of this? No, because they say as long as the concentration is the same, they're providing the same number of ions. Yes or no? Will the conductivity of this be the same as well? Or no? What does it break apart into? It breaks apart into Ba plus 2 plus 2Cl minus. What do you think will be the conductivity based on the number of ions? Will it be different? No, it's again 3 ions. Yes or no? Based on the number of ions, the conductivity will not change for these 3 substances. Yes?
You know how oxygen gets converted into?
Dichromate is a -2.
Oh,
Oxygen is not a -2. Oxygen is by itself a -2. True. You should memorize dichromate and know that that's a -2. Okay. So we are moving on to how will barium nitrate dissolve in water. So what does barium nitrate break down into in solution? It breaks down into Ba plus 2 plus 2NO3 minus. It's a -1. Correct?
Yes.
Providing a total of 3 ions for 1 formula unit. So if I'm going to draw how it's dissolved in water, I'll probably draw a barium plus 2 ion. And how many nitrate ions? 2 nitrate ions. Nitrate is slightly bigger, and we'll learn why that is later on. All right? Now, when water tries to remove it, which side of water will face barium? Oxygen. So the oxygen side of water will surround barium. Even though water side should be much smaller, I'm not drawing it to size here. Does that make sense? This is oxygen and these are the hydrogens. In nitrate, which side of water will surround the nitrate? The hydrogen side should surround the nitrate. There are a number of water molecules that surround it. There are a large number of them. It doesn't matter. So try to surround it with water molecules to show that on all sides water comes and attacks it and separates it. It's completely solvated by water, so to say.
just the negative.
Hydrogen is positive, that's negative. Oxygen is the negative end. Hydrogen is the positive end.
Wait, oxygen is positive?
Oxygen is negative in water. Hydrogen is positive. It should be the opposite. So similarly, you surround this also with water molecules. The orientation of water as it attacks the ion is important to know. Is that clear? So now, I'm going to do one of these problems So the first one, it breaks apart into how many chromium ions? 2 chromium plus 3 plus 3 SO4 minus 2. Now, Haley and Natalie got this question right. Alright? So, I want them to come and do this problem in front of class. Alright? You can come up, alright? And you can do the problem and we can discuss it once they finish the problem. Whoever has questions can ask once they finish writing it out.
You want us to do both of the columns or just?
Each one of you can do one each if you've done both. Alright? Yes. We'll discuss that once they finish doing the problem. Alright?
Oh yeah, wait. Oh, it doesn't really matter for this problem, right? The charge
Second
doesn't
one.
matter for this?
The charge doesn't matter as long as you have the number right. So those of you who have not done this problem should be writing it down. Yeah, you can just extend the board out of that.
And then to find the other one, you just put it there instead.
Okay, I want you to record what you're saying. Record what you just said because then you will underline. Say that loudly. How do you calculate chromium ions?
Okay, so it says that there's 50 grams, so you start there, and you find the atomic mass of the whole thing.
Molar mass?
Molar mass, and that's over 1 mole, and then to cancel the 1 mole, that's how many formula units are in 1 mole, and then 1 formula unit is 3 SO4, that is, and then you get that, and then to find the number of ions of chromium, you just replace it there, and those are the
Replace the 3s4 by what?
with 2 chromium.
2 chromiums. Instead of the 3, you will have a 2 there, and the answer will be, you want to write down the answer for chromium? So if you solve the number of chromium ions, you will get chromium plus 3, right? Chromium plus 3. Now you just extend the board and do the next problem, alright? On the other side. And if you hit extend, yeah, there you go.
Okay.
And put it around Natalie's neck. If she wants to talk, she can talk after
I
you.
don't think I want to do that.
She's the one who said we're That's gross. Oh yeah.
Very sorry.
Hey, Jenny, man. Put me on this. Add me on the snap, man.
So who are the kids who didn't take balancing and types of reaction quiz? How many kids did not take balancing and types of reaction quiz? Kiran, can you go to the bachelor class for some time? Anybody else who did not take balancing and types quiz? Alright guys, do you have any questions? Natalie, put the thing around your neck. Do you have any questions for Natalie? Are you understanding how these problems are done?
Now we can walk us through the process.
Okay, so you write out everything, right?
Ronnie?
And then you find the molar mass. So if you start with 50 grams, and then for 1 mole it's that mass. And then to cancel out that 1 mole, you do that with the formula unit, and then 1 formula unit is 3BA, and then you just.
Do you understand?
Yeah, just give me some.
Yeah.
Any other question? You will get such a question on your quiz and your test. Do you think you know how to do it?
Yes.
Not Becca, still it's a no? Which part of it is a no? Huh? Like Becca, up until this part is what we did in the prior unit, right? Remember, I think I'm going to stop this recording as of now, or should I record myself? I don't know. Let's just extend it. Natalie, can I have that? Thank you.
This isn't that.
Okay. So guys, so one thing you kids should know is the monkey in the middle. Remember we learned that before? The monkey in the middle is 1 mole. And then you have grams on one side, and you have particles which constitutes formula units molecules, atoms, all these things. Yes or no? Didn't we say these are multiple proportion problems? So in this problem, where are you starting with? You're starting with the grams. What should the grams first be converted to? Into moles. Is that right? And the number before mole is always 1. You have to cancel out of grams. Where does the grams come from? Periodic table. In this case, it is a compound and it is a formula unit of the compound. You calculate the molar mass. Yes or no? The molar mass goes here. Are we good? So you cancel grams. And then you have to cancel out of moles. What does the mole lead you into? Because it's an ionic compound, it leads you into formula units. That's a 1 and that's a 6.02 times 10 to the 23. What is the only extension we have done in this unit? One formula unit will give how many ions of a particular kind when it is associated. That is the only extension in this unit. Yes or no? At this time, I think my students should be able to do this on their own. Are there any further questions? Okay, I'm going to stop this recording right now.